Welcome to Our View, the podcast, where we're changing the conversation about disability one story at a time. Here at Our View, we're all about education, awareness, and shifting perspectives. With each episode, we dive into honest, meaningful conversations with individuals from across the disabled community, amplifying voices, sharing lived experiences, and challenging the way society sees disability. Because disability isn't a limitation, it's a part of the human experience. So pull up a seat and join us as we broaden the view and bring real, powerful stories into focus. This is Our View. I would like to welcome everyone back to a new episode of Our View, the podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. I'm your host, Arthur Aston, and today my guest is Jennifer Gasner. So, Jennifer, thank you for joining me for this conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, you're welcome. So to start off the conversation, can you tell us about yourself? Who is Jennifer? And we're going to get into your story a little bit deeper, but you can tell us, as much as you would like.
Well, I'm a Gen Xer, so I was born in 1973. Uh, I was diagnosed with a rare disease at 17. It's called Friedreich's ataxia for anyone who's interested. Um, it's genetic. So both my parents had to be carriers of the disease in order for me to have it. Uh, and it's progressive. Didn't really know anything about it for a long, well, not a long time, for a couple of weeks. I thought, oh, I'm just gonna have to deal with this now once in a while. And then I saw someone in a wheelchair who had Friedrich's, and I freaked out essentially. But it's definitely been a learning curve for me, and now I live in San Diego.
Wonderful, San Diego. I love California.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for for sharing that. And uh now we'll transition into talking about the book that you wrote that I recently read, and it is titled My Unexpected Life: Finding Balance Beyond My Diagnosis. And that was published in 2023.
Yeah.
Um, yes. So, why was it important for you to write and share your story with the world?
There were a lot of reasons. I had always been told, oh, Jenn, you should write a book. And I enjoyed writing, so I was kind of inclined to agree that I should write a book. But really, the main reason was because when I was going through all of the times that, excuse me, that my disease progressed and things were getting worse on this side and this side. If I had read about somebody else going through those similar things, that would have helped me not feel so isolated and so much shame around what was happening with me. So that's the major reason.
Yes, that is so important that you said that. I always think about how, as a person with a disability, I was born with my disability, and um, we often look for people who look like us on TV, in books, in movies. And so for you to say you didn't know anyone who had written about it, before, or in, such detail in a book like you have. So to write about it for future generations of people who will be, have this diagnosis, and they won't feel, such shock or shame associated with things that are
Yeah.
happening because of their diagnosis.
And the other cool thing about it is I think it can be applied to anyone with any diagnosis, regardless of the diagnosis. It can just be, you know, I would hope it's some sort of beacon to shed light on disability.
Yes, and that's what I shared with you, and I've said often on this podcast. I really feel that we can begin to change the way people view and see those of us living with disabilities by sharing our stories
Yeah.
and our experiences. And as you mentioned, you were diagnosed when you were a teenager, which is, hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
Being a
Yeah.
teenager in high school and transitioning from high school into college, those years are, difficult enough by themselves. So, so being diagnosed with a disability on top of all of the other, teenage things that are going on, was had to be quite the experience, and you did a great job of sharing those experiences in your book. And
Thank
without giving away too many spoilers, as the
you.
reader proceeds through the book, they will notice that you take us on a journey of your process of arriving at accepting that you have a disability. As you mentioned earlier, you said you saw someone who has the same diagnosis as you using a wheelchair, and it was kind of, shocking for you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like a couple parts of a question. So I'll just start with one, and then we can work our way through the rest.
Okay.
The first part of that is what influence or impact did your parents and your friends have on you arriving at that acceptance of having a disability? Because you talk about your friends a lot in the book.
Well, I hate to say it, but a lot of my friends in the book that I talk about didn't have as much to do with it as like my boss and the staff at the Independent Living Center. That was the major me- community that finally made me feel okay with being disabled.
Yes, you did talk about your job there and the experiences you had there as well. So that is, I was just interested in, what or who it was that helped you get there at
Yeah,
arriving at this acceptance, because it's a change, because you were 17, so you lived your life, uh, without a disability, but you were having certain symptoms and things that were coming up for you. But so it was, had to be.
yeah. And that was 10 years after my diagnosis, maybe a little less. So, I had kind of grown up always thinking, oh, people with disabilities want to be cured or they want to conform to whatever you want to call it. And and it was really working there into talking to other people that my perspective really shifted.
Yes. Yeah, that is it's so true. As I mentioned, in movies and books, you often see characters with disabilities and, the hero that comes in and cures them and saves the day and
Yeah, yeah,
and it's um that's the one thing I really appreciated about your book is the honesty of how you really felt about living with this diagnosis and through the story, through the book, and having that perspective change, and you sharing that. But it's a process. It's a process and it's a long process, as you
yes,
said. Yeah, from your
yeah,
diagnosis to the time you started working at the Center for Independent Living, that was so many years that had passed. So, it's a great journey that you took us on. So, really, again, really grateful that I had a chance to read the book. The next question I had uh, was there a specific moment or a series of moments where you decided for yourself that accepting your disability, um, I brought up the example of having to use a wheelchair. Um, is there a point where you realized that it would not change much about your life, and that in some ways it would enhance your life?
I I think there are a couple different things. I mean, definitely it was talking with my boss and finding out more about the social model of disability. Then there was also like the first time I ever used a power wheelchair. I was convinced it was going to be a tragic event in my life and I was going to be depressed and things like that. And oh my God, it so was not that way. It was really liberating and freeing
Yes,
in a lot of ways.
yes, for sure. That is, that's why I think, certain phrases that we hear commonly, on the news, like wheelchair bound and things
Yeah.
like that, can be so harming and dangerous to use because I can walk for short distances with my braces and crutches, but I can go for miles in my wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm not bound by my
Or,
wheelchair. My wheelchair gives me so much more freedom and accessibility
right.
to do things that I can't do on my crutches.
Or confined to a wheelchair.
Yes, yes, those are
Yeah.
things that, again, they can be more harmful because they put those words out into the world and they make people have certain stereotypes that are created about people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And, I do a lot in my wheelchair and I'm grateful to be able to have it again, to do much more than I could ever do with my crutches.
And exactly like those were the emotions that hit me when I saw this guy with reflex ataxia. I because again I was socialized to have this other view of disability.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, it goes back to this is why stories like yours are so important to share because it- you gave real life examples of your journey of living with this diagnosis and how it progressed for you and your acceptance of it was really was just really nice to see.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, you're welcome. In the opening pages of the book, you mentioned that your thoughts and your language surrounding disability at the time of your diagnosis were rooted in ableism. So how have your thoughts about disability evolved over time?
Well, definitely I don't like to be considered suffering from whatever disease.
Yes, I agree.
Um, yeah, and I don't like to buy into people's low expectations of me. That's why my unexpected life is can be taken both ways. Like it's unexpected because nothing I ever thought my life would be. And it's unexpected because people had such low expectations for me. So that's a huge part of it. And I've learned to look at disability as like a slice of a person. Yes, it interacts with every other slice and it's part of everything, but it's still only a slice of someone. There's still so much more than just their disability.
I love that analogy of the slice. I always say my disability is part of who I am. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I can't get away
Yes,
from it. When I'm rolling up in my wheelchair or walking up on my crutches, you see my disability. It's here. It's you can see it. It's not going away. But there's so much more to me beyond that. And there's so
yeah,
much more to you beyond, your diagnosis and everyone else. And I love that the way you use the unexpected life of, having the two sides of it. It was unexpected that this would happen to you. You didn't see that coming, but then, when people see you, it's they can look at you and say like, oh wow, like she has a diagnosis, but she's doing so much and living your best life, and that's how it should be, for all of us, I think. Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And we talked about this briefly, where your book primarily focuses on the years of you being a teenager and your young adulthood in college. And as I mentioned, these years are so important in a person's life. You're forming new friendships and relationships, um, maintaining childhood relationships from people you've known since, middle school and high school, while everyone is moving
Yeah.
in their own different spaces of college and establishing careers and all of those things.
Mhm.
So the next question is, what advice would you give to disabled teenagers or young adults who are making these transitions from out of high school and into college or the workforce?
Well, I think it's important to accept the help or the aid you are given through the disability student services. I know quite a few people who use wheelchairs, and I can call disability advocates now. But when they were in college, they were too afraid to ask for those accommodations. So I think that's a big thing. And don't be afraid to find your find community. However, you know, you do. I think community is a big thing.
Yes, I agree. Community, it's like you're not out here alone. You don't have to do it alone. As you said, if college is your thing and seek out the disability services, they are there to help and ask for what you need. It is so important, and it's a great thing that college campuses have these departments available for students with disabilities
Yes.
as some place to feel welcomed. That you have a disability, but this college space, this community is here for you. It's so important. I remember my college years and being connected with the disability services department, and just introduce myself like, hey, I'm here. I don't need any specific accommodations at the time, but you'll get to know my face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get to know me.
Exactly.
So it is important, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, is to have that support system of community around you is so important. It makes such a big difference having friends, family, and just other people that you're connected to through your workspace. As you mentioned, when you had your job at the Center for Independent Living, those the individuals there and how they helped and assisted you with different things. It's just so important. So thank you for that great advice. Um, so one thing I liked about your story, of one of the many things I liked, is your references to music throughout the story. It's just,
Good.
yeah, it's just music. Music has a way of just taking you back to like a certain time of, just
Mhm.
certain memories. It brings memories really fast of where you were when when you heard that song, who you were with. So I really appreciated that. And I saw I s- I saw Dave Matthews in concert once, and it was
Oh.
quite, yes, and it was quite the experience. I immediately understood why he has such a great following. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, yes. So
Yes.
you mentioned him a few times in the
Yeah.
book, yeah, and so that brings us to my last question that I have. As I said, you make many music references throughout your book, and this is a question I actually heard on the Questlove podcast. Um, and he's the drummer for the Roots that plays on Jimmy Fallon, and
Yeah.
they're from Philadelphia, and so I love his podcast. It's music focused. So he asked, and one of his guests, and I'm going to ask you this question: if you're taking a long road trip, what are 5 songs that must be on your playlist?
Oh gosh. I apologize because I didn't prepare my list, but I would probably say "Walking in My Shoes" by Depeche Mode, uh, "Bizarre Love Triangle" by New Order. This is all aging me terribly. uh, probably oh gosh, let's I'm trying to think of the name of this song. I'm sure I can't think of the name of it. Oh, Granny by Jay Matthews Band. Uh, probably Stuck with Me by, or no, Stuck with You by Huey Lewis and the News, and Real by Duran Duran.
Fantastic songs. I was wondering if you were going to include a Dave Matthews song.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's funny because I wrote that question, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, how dare I ask her that question? I don't even have 5 songs myself. But I did
that
think of but I did
that's
think
a
of
good
them.
question. So,
Yeah.
have have you ever heard the podcast Messy with
No,
Christina Applegate and Jamie Lynn Sigler?
no, I haven't.
Well, it's all about MS,
Oh, okay.
and
Yes.
Christina has a party trick where you describe like your 3 favorite movies.
Um,
So it's kind of similar based on those. She like analyzes you.
oh yeah. Look, I
It's
promise there's none of
really,
that going on
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, there's none of that going
But
on here. I just like
those
music.
are, I like those questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I like music, and so I just thought of it. And so I thought about it. My five songs would be, and again, I'm aging myself because I don't listen to anything new hardly. Um
Me neither.
and I'm a child of the 80s, so so my five songs, not in any particular order, although everybody knows Patti LaBelle is my favorite. I will say You Are My Friend by Patti LaBelle, PYT by Michael Jackson. I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
Ooh, that's a good
Yes,
one.
Escapade by Janet Jackson.
That's a good
And
one too.
yes, and Joy Inside My Tears by Stevie Wonder.
Great list.
Yes. It's funny. I thought about that this morning when I was looking at the questions again. I said, how dare I ask her a question that I don't have five songs myself? And I'm like, well, what's five songs would I pick? I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's a terrible question to ask somebody. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Yes, but thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you and having you share parts of your book with us. And before we do wrap
Thank
up,
you.
you're welcome. Before we do wrap up, I would like for you to share any social media handles, your website, and where people can purchase the name of your book and where people can purchase your book.
So my book is called My Unexpected Life: Finding Balance Beyond My Diagnosis. It's available for order at almost any bookstore. They should be able to order it. Won't be on the shelf, but they can order it. You can also get it through Amazon. And I don't know when this is coming out, but it's on Kindle Unlimited until March 6th. So, yeah, after that, it should be on any e-book format. Then my website is jennifergasner.com. And if you sign up for the mailing list, you get the link to the playlist for the book, which is kind of a fun thing. And I'm on Instagram as Jenny G Writer, and I'm on LinkedIn at Jennifer Gasner, and Facebook Jennifer Gasner Author.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I encourage everyone to read your book, and it was a great book, well written, and took us on quite a journey.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Yes, and the music references are great, so definitely sign up for the newsletter to get the link to the playlist. That's it's a really cool idea, actually. Um, yes, so Jen, thank you again for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I really appreciate it and look forward to staying in touch and connecting with you again soon.
Thank you so much, Arthur.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Our View, the podcast, where we amplify the voices and stories of those in the disabled community, one conversation at a time. If this story moved you, taught you something new, or sparked a different perspective, we'd love to hear from you. Write a review of the podcast on Apple Podcast and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. follow us on all social media platforms at Our View for Life 25. At Our View, we believe that disability is not a limitation, it is a powerful part of the human experience. So until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep seeing the world through our view.